or 2 seconds later for me. So to stay on the layout for a minute, probably another video. So setups when I got there Thursday night from after work, and I started setting up, and the display was fully set up. I didn't even worry about the wiring until Friday. So Friday morning, I'm down there, and I'm struggling with the because I keep on I had them all color coded, all the wires color coded to the various sensors and the motor outputs and blah blah, like I used to do with my robot competitions. None of that was there because I took it all off because I was redoing all the wiring, and so I had to find 2 RCXs that were the ones that run the layout. Not only that, I had to find the right ports. I had to go in the program. I had to my computer, my laptops on, downloading and all of that. So that took a while. So the train loop worked fantastically well right off the bat. It's fine. The spinning loop at the top, the one little circle, worked perfectly fine. The shuttle carrier, there's some parts to it, and then my original mock monorail train that is now on the ramp loop at the top took a little bit to get working in, coaxing in. But the main loop, the biggest loop, for the life of everything, I could not get, even putting brand new wire in there, I could not get the contacts to work continuously. It would always stop. And I said, I'm not even gonna worry about it. After everything that's going on, I am not gonna worry about it. I just left it alone, and sporadically I would see it moving. So I took it as a win. Nobody cared besides me. Nobody noticed besides me that the main loop was not running at all, hardly, through the entire thing. Because I had Thursday night to put the whole thing together, and I started adding details Thursday night, and because Friday with the Mindstorms issues, but they were all worked out except for one loop, I got to spend a lot of time detailing the layout. I got to spend a lot of time doing that. I had brought, I've had minifigs over the years that just got thrown into a bin because they fall off, and then whatever. This layout here that I did at Brickomanie was literally the most detailed layout that I ever did before, because I had the time to do that. Now again, I've mentioned this before, I always want to leave space for space. I don't want to pack everything in. You have to leave some room to breathe. So I try not to overwhelm it with stuff, and I think when I looked at it, sometimes it looked a little too much. So I think maybe roll that back a little tiny bit, but people loved it. And I had most of my stuff out on the layout. And of course, minifigs always look like they're doing things. And the lighting. So there was one tower stanchion spotlights that did not work, and I think it wasn't the tower's fault because I tried other towers there, it didn't work. It was the base plate's fault. And again, we'll talk about that later. But if and when I get around to fixing it, it's going to be hopefully fixed. Other than that, all the tower lights worked perfectly fine. The LEDs on the landing pads and the roadways overall were all on. The building was all lit up. The rocket launch platform was all lit up. The habitat was all lit up. It was possibly the best the layout's ever looked since I started building this. And considering the disaster, the Lego disaster 25, the fact that it looked this good, I was very, very surprised. But anyway, so the layout was done before people started walking into the thing on Friday or Saturday morning, which is great. So Saturday morning, I think it opened at 9 or something like that, and people started coming in, and it was packed, and there's a lot of people around the layout, and I did the seek and find. I tried to translate all my sheets into French because we're in Quebec. So I translated as much as I possibly could into French to see confines and the details, the statistics, all those sheets that I made for the layout before, talking about, because people asked the same questions. So I had the statistics, how many pieces, 30 to 50,000, how long is 2007, blah, blah. I put all that in with cute little pictures. I did it in English for the last show, and I just translated them into French for this show. I reprinted them. That went over well. I'm gonna say that right now. I have 11 by 17 or 11 by 17 from work, color printer, and then so it has cute little pictures. Nothing, just details. And I go into the Tower Inspiration, Peter Reed's Onessa Space, which again, Peter. There's so many people I have to thank. So people like that. And a lot of people were asking about that kind of stuff. I was so let's talk about the public for a second, and probably for a lot. There is a difference in language. Obviously, we're in Quebec, and I didn't have one problem communicating with people. And even though there were some people there that couldn't speak a lick of English, but there was always somebody there to translate. But if they had questions. Some kids were translating for their parents, and some parents were translating for their kids. So that was good because the people have a million questions. And so and a lot of people were putting a very good effort into speaking English with me that were very, very limited on English, but we made it understood. And je ne parle pas français, but I could understand some words, what they're saying, and I was trying to communicate with them, and I was basically showing them pictures because the pictures explains things better than I ever could. And so that was fantastic. I got a little misty-eyed when there was a mom there and her daughter, and her mom was in a wheelchair, just probably as old as my mom would be right now. And she was talking to me, and her daughter was translating, and I was talking back to her daughter, and she could translate back to her mom. And we had a wonderful conversation. And then I found out that her mom was an artist, and my mom was an artist. And she had all those kind of things that my mom would have asked about this layout. So that reminded me of my mom, and I get a little misty. Even thinking about it right now, I'm getting a little misty about it. I get to be a softie as I get old. Okay, I was always a softie. So that it was a spectacular weekend for the public. The public days were just wonderful. I'd never had it. There was one bad experience, so let's talk about that really quick. So I was walking away from the layout. My wife's there, Sandy's there. I was walking away from the layout to go do something else, but somebody was there, and they were disappointed. I guess we could say disappointed. I had. I don't think I have any. Wait, I do. Where are they? Oh, it's in the other bin. That's right there. We'll get this thing out because I don't have anything right at. I'm putting Velcro on everything so the thing don't spill open. So Sandy overheard it, and it was a person. Should be in here. Or maybe I left it in the box. I thought I guess it was in the box. Garage doors. The trans-clear beam or rod that has the two studs on a plate, and it goes to the beam that has the one stud over here that they use for whatever. I use those to float people in space because they're clear, they're trans-clear. So sometimes there's 2 or 3 of them put together, so the space guy's way out here, and sometimes they're good enough to hold on the spaceship, so the spaceship looks like it's flying in space. He goes, "Why would you even bother doing that? You can see them." That's the attempt, dude. Like, seriously, are you kidding me? Like, he was offended that I was using these trans-clear posts to hold something out in space to make it look like they're floating. Like, what else? Maybe you should have used string and something over. Like, yeah, maybe I should have. Like, really? That's the only negative comment the entire weekend, and I just laugh at it because, like, whatever, dude. During lights out, you didn't see them. It was fantastic. And so we'll talk about that. So that led right into the lights out portion. That's the only negative comment that I got literally the entire weekend. This guy was offended. He was like chagrined. So he was like, that I use these trans clear posts to make guys look like they're floating in space. Whatever, dude. like if that's your nitpick, I can live with that. Anywho, the lights out portion, I'm gonna say, was spectacular, and not because of the layout. The layout looked good, but there was so many things that were lit up. Like one of the criteria of the show, one of the things that you could sign off on was a light up section. So the organizers said if you have one of the big Lego sets of all time, like the Roman Colosseum, like the Titanic, like the Eiffel Tower, like the AT-AT, whatever, the UCSs, and you want to light it up, that'd be fantastic. And so that was fantastic. Like normally when you go to a show, you don't just want to see Lego sets because people have Lego sets, right? And so most conventions don't allow people just to bring sets for display. But in this case, it was well worth the trip to Acton. So they had not only the Eiffel Tower and not only the stadiums and not only the Coliseum. Was the Coliseum lit up? I can't remember. The Rivendell, magnifique. The modulars all lit up. They had the Technic sets, the large Technic sets, the big huge excavators, I can't remember, the Lieberts, whatever, lit up. And oh my goodness, I was so surprised that the Technic sets lit up with whatever lighting systems they were using. Looked spectacularly awesome. I'm gonna say, so that part of the lights out was fantastic. But the mocks that were lit up, like I as you might know from me trying to light up this layout for the last 15 years, I know how much effort it takes to light up a mock. Especially a big mock. And I know how much effort it is, not just to light up a mock, but to be able to transport it to a show and still have it lit up. I, of all people, know how much that is, how much effort is entailed in that. There was only one actual train layout at the show that I saw. There was, and it was beautifully detailed. Trees were wonderful. Downtown, it wasn't big either. It was like, I think it was on 2 tables. And he used third-party track, which I'm really, really loving, by the way, because the Lego track can't do the nice majestic curves that the third parties can do. But he had the details, the greebling, or whatever you want to call it, the bedding. I can't remember what they call it on the train side, but it was wonderfully, wonderfully detailed. Not over, because again, I talked about this in my layout. You don't want it overly detailed. You don't want too much stuff, visual stimulus, but just the buildings lit up and the train going around. It was lit up appropriately. It was wonderful, absolutely gorgeous. There was a lot of people using blacklight, which again, I sign off on because I do my little moving art thing. So no lights in the layout, just trans neon green, trans neon orange, and a few solid bricks that also glow in the dark. So when you put on the black light, they look spectacular. So even that, like, you don't have to put lights in your layout. You can just use the trans stuff or the other bricks that will glow in the dark and put the black light on them, and it still pops. I have a whole video in this YouTube channel with the lights out stuff. It was phenomenal. Again, I've seen shows like you got the new Hishirima, I never can pronounce it properly, that Simon and all the other people do. There's one of those there, and that was, oh my goodness, lit up beautifully. There was, I can't even go through I took a video of it. The big boat was there, the big container boat, beautifully lit up. There was a chess set. I think it was Deborah's chess set. It was in Deborah's area, but that lit up underneath the bricks, the trans whatever color bricks. It was a chess set, and it was. So it doesn't have to be big. It could be tiny. There was some people building little vignettes on 16 by 16 base plates, like buildings and the very, very fantasy kind of buildings and mountain stuff that was lit up. There was so much lit up. Again, I love the lights out portion, going right back to Brick Fat. And so I will say this with all sincerity, my layout pales in comparison to what I saw lit up at Brickomanie this year. I just happen to have a lot of lights. I loved it. I absolutely adored the lights out portion. I was just, there was a couple amusement parks with moving Ferris wheels and spinny things that were all beautifully lit up. But from small to big, small, like just tiny things lit up. There was a micro scale of Harry Potter castle, Hogwarts, that it was beautifully, like the stained glass in the windows for the Hogwarts castle, like that was inspirational. And it's just, I was so impressed by the efforts of people with the light ups. So that went over very, very well for me. I'm not sure how other people felt about it, but it was fantastic for me. The general mocks, there wasn't a bad mock in the plays. There really wasn't. Even the simple mocks were wonderful. And there was a lot of young mock displayers there that were just inspirational to be their age and bringing a display to the show. Because I know I would have loved that when I was their age, in the single digits, in the lower double digits, to bring something like that to a show. There was one of my friend's sons brought his little Star Wars diorama, and it was wonderful. Also lit up, but also effort was put into the landscaping and everything, and it was a sight to behold. So I was very impressed with that. I watched that. I looked at that a lot. This show, and I'm going, this is coming from a young builder, from a 14-year-old. I'm going, this hobby has such good foundations of young people that I can't wait. I honestly cannot wait in the next 20 years to see what's going to happen to conventions and what they're going to build. So start them off young, I say. Get them going. So the lights out portion was great. There was the fantasy. There was a lot of Star Wars there. So we're going to talk about mocks for a sec. I took a video. So what I appreciated, again, if you want to bring a set, then do something with the set. Just don't drop the set on the table and display it and think that's, you can if you want it. I don't care. But there was a person who had vignettes of all the, I won't say all the Star Wars sets, but it looked like all the early Star Wars sets. Like the Imperial shuttle and a little at ST. He had those two sets, built sets. But what he did is he made a vignette, more of a diorama, but a vignette of where those two sets would be. And so he built the little station on Endor with the two landing platforms and the big trees. And so he had the at ST in the trees, and he had the Imperial shuttle on the landing pad on top. I'm going, that's perfect. Like literally my entire layout has dozens of classic space sets that you could have bought off the store shelves back in 1979. But literally the basis of my entire layout is sets. So I don't mind when somebody brings a set, as long as they put it in something. Like I love train people like shake their fists because they go to a Lego convention and they look at all the train layouts and they all have exactly the same modulars. I don't care. I don't care. I think that's fantastic. If you have a train layout and you want to put modular buildings in, why wouldn't you? That's kind of what they're built for. But so he had like at least, I think, a dozen vignettes of the original land speeder, the sand speeder, the land speeder from A New Hope that I actually bought too. He had that on Tatooine. He built Tatooine, little Sandman over there. Fantastic. Again, when it comes to episode 1, 2, and 3, I'm not as well versed, but they had the pod race, which again for me was the worst part of the movie. But in here, in this context, he built like a pretty long desert scene and had the 2 or 3 pod racers there, and had like a little I forget what they're called now, the Sandman out there. I can't remember what their names are because it's Star Wars. I loved it. I loved it. He put those sand speed, the pod race things in a beautiful diorama. And I think my favorite though was, I think it was episode 2 when Anakin jumped out of the little uh, car floaty thing to go get the other guy. So you have the set, the set with the two hovercrafts or whatever, flags, car type spaceships, and you see Anakin falling down from one to the other. Nicely done. like I love that kind of crap. I adore that kind of crap. So all those original Star Wars sets were all displayed inside a picture of what they would be looking like in the movie. And I said, you keep on doing that. Yes, they're sets. I don't care, because look at the effort that they put around the set, and that's perfectly acceptable to me. I think that's fantastic. I think that's perfect. They had the B wing and the I think an X wing, followed by 2 TIE fighters in the trench run, or Y wing. I forget these names. No, it was a Y wing. The B wing's kind of whatever. The Y wing. Nicely done. Like the details of the trench, very, 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 very detailed, without being too detailed, because again, it wasn't in the movie. So just that stuff. Even the lightsaber battle between I think it was Luke and Darth Vader. I think that was there. I can't remember now. There's so many of them. I took a video of them all. I loved it. But if you just walk past that table of Star Wars vignettes, you get to the back wall, and I wasn't expecting to be moved by this. I honestly, because again, I'm not a completist at all. I mean, even though I am complete in class space, I'm not a completist at all. But a person brought literally every single minifig ever produced. One copy of every single and so he had them all in these little display cases. And I know there was like, I don't know how many, I think 10 rows of 10 or 8 rows of 8, but at least 64 per frame. And he had 10 by 10, maybe 20 frames. And he had the part number on them and the year that they were released. And so he even started off with the no moving arms, no moving legs minifigs that came out in 1975. And so those are the first few rows. And then they had 600, this police guy, and then 602, the shell guy, and all those guys, the fire guy that came in those original little box sets. And then the space guys, the red and yellow, the red and white space guys, and the yellow, blah, blah. And it went through, and then you had Redbeard, the very first time they put a just regular happy face on that. And then it went through miles of minifigs. And they're all there. Everyone I could think of was there. And again, I'm not a minifig connoisseur, but wonderful. I don't mind that. I don't. It's unique. It's like my table runners that I made for all the classic space sets, just one of each, right? So I have no problem with that. And then people were gathered around looking at it, and they go, "Oh, I have that one. I remember getting that one." I love that kind of crap. If you get something that draws in people, and you have a unique part of the hobby that does that, just go with it. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the people who have a problem with clear pipes holding people up in space. Like, just ignore them. They're not worth thinking about. So that was fantastic. Just off the top of my head, there was he even told me the name few times. But there's that fad that's been going around for at least a decade now, and Jason Ellerman did one years ago. But he built an entire fantasy scene, sort of steampunk, but more fantasy whimsical, Dave Bowie and Labyrinth kind of thing, where he used the idea where you have the chains that hold up something, so it's floating in air, and the chains kind of keep it in the one position. There's a name for it, and I always forget about it. Doesn't matter. But he did a big one, so he had big chains holding up this big, huge rock island, and then he had a little tiny one on the top of the rock island holding up another little island, and then he had all these stairs going to all the little mountains that floated in space. It was a beautiful little fantasy scene. I think he won Best in Show. If I remember correctly, he won Best in Show because it was spectacular. It wasn't big. It wasn't big. It was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 feet long. It wasn't a big mock. It was a pretty high mock because he had this big, huge rock mountain thing. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. And you spent some time looking around, and there was a little nifty detail there, and there's a little nifty deal, even a little lit little campfire going there, and a little light over there, and a little waterfall over here. He was showing me a brick that I had no idea existed, a 2x4 brick with axle holes in it, axle cross holes in it. I'm going, when did that show up? I guess it's a relatively new brick, but he used it for the waterfall because just bricks would, so the brick, the actual waterfalls was holding up the other island that was floating on top. It was beautiful. I have it in my Flickr feed somewhere. Wherever I went on the entire floor, wherever I went on the entire floor, even if I was not remotely interested myself in that theme or that whatever, I was beyond impressed with the efforts and the wonderful. There was enough to see the details, blah blah. Even I can't remember his name exactly from Torlug. He brought this mobile that was 8 feet tall. It's some sort of artistic years ago. I don't even know the history of it, but it was hanging from a crane. So he built this entire Technic arm that was long and it hung over, and then he had this mobile hanging off it that's like just kept on. I remember him trying to set it up on Friday. He was having a tough time with it, but he finally got it set up, and it was a crowd pleaser. It was wonderful. So that was nice to see. I put my little spinny art thing beside his thing. So that was fine. Right across from me, a young kid, and I won't remember his name, even I think it wasn't Gabriel. We talked a lot. I'm bad with names, but he's a friend of mine on Facebook now. He showed up, and he was kind of shy and whatever, and he said I wasn't ready, and I was going to build a whole bunch of other stuff. But it was a toboggan sled with Vulpix and Pikachu riding on his tail, and it was just not this big. It was just, but you could see immediately what they were if you're a fan of Pokemon, and it looks like just with a static display, because it was at an angle, it looked like they're going down a hill, and Vulpix has got his eyes closed, like he was holding onto the leads of the toboggan. It was, and I couldn't imagine there's more than 150 pieces in this thing. It should have been a set. A set that I can buy. It should have been literally a set that I could buy. It was so beyond cute. It was so beyond even the sense of motion for a static display, even the sense of joy and fun that thing conveyed to me. And it was just a toboggan that was kind of floating in air. He said he wanted to build the whole mountain behind it. I said, just this alone conveys what it needs to convey. I'm going, I looked at that thing every day. I walked past it. I just stopped because it just exuded joy and happiness and fun, and the Pokemons. Like, there was so many layers on that little tiny build that I absolutely adored. It was fantastic. There was a GBC in the back corner, not a big GBC, wonderfully built. The K-Log guys know how to build GBCs. I remember last Brickomanie that their GBC was pretty big, and whatever they bring to Toronto is also very good. But it was a good showing for a GBC, and just keep on doing that. I love the GBCs. So from small to big, there was not one disappointing mock there. Some people thought that some of the mocks were a little simplistic, but for me, knowing the builders, being young, this is their first kick at the can. This is their first show. And I wanted to support that because these young kids who just bring some simple blocking thing are going to be the builders of the future. So, but even those simple blocking things looked inspirational. Like they saw something on TV and they built it out of basic brick. And I'm going, I can see what that is. And they're kids. I want to support that. I want to say they should be encouraged. I'm not saying just, oh, here's my mock. It's a skyrise. Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. You can see it was a battleship. You can see it was absolutely. And I'm going, and they're single digits. I want to support that. I don't want the entire show to be that, but I want to support that. And I want them to feel like they're part of the group that they should be encouraged to keep on doing what they're doing. Because, you know, I know when I first started doing shows, I hardly had anything. And thankfully, because with the layout I bring, it has that picture history of the layout from 2007 to now. And when I look at 2007, besides Jeff's train, which is magnifique, it's just basic. It's sets. It's the whole thing is sets and base plates. That's all I brought to the very first base layout. And I was in 2007. I was in my 30s, I think. I can't do math. And that's all I brought. That's it for a layout. That's all I brought was space sets that you could buy off a store shelf back in the day, and like base plates, and put them down. There you go. I'm done. and look what it became. Had I been discouraged from the very first time, oh, why are you just doing that? That's, you know, anybody can do that. Yeah, anybody could do that. I just happen to do it. So I want that to continue. I want to see what the next generation, because I've been, again, not all the conventions, but I've been doing conventions since 2004, and I've been doing Lego shows since 1997. I want to encourage everybody to bring what they want, and I said this numerous times over this past weekend, and as well as literally almost every other show I've been to. If you have a niche, the guy has just minifigs. He has all the minifigs, but he just has minifigs. I don't know if he had anything else at the show, but that's what he displayed at this show. He might have had other displays at the show, I wouldn't know. But that's what he had at this show. And it was fantastic. That's what he did. Some guy just put dioramas with actual Star Wars sets. The GBC, like, you can build it as small as you want or as big as you want. And there was a few people there that this was their first show. And I encourage them that, you know, they look around and look at the big cargo ship, and they look at the Hogwarts castle, and they look at my layout, and they look at all the huge displays. And I say, yes, those are there, but you also look around, there's this little 16 by 16 vignette that's built up. It's a house with a stream and a waterfall, and a guy fishing. That's what it is. Look how beautiful that tree is. Look how beautiful that tree is. Like, I'm amazed when people do trees. Like, all the time, and they're all different. Like, there's not just those little cone trees that you got from 1970s. They actually put effort into making a tree, or making a flower, or making a flower bed, or making a stream, or making a pathway. Jeff's castle, oh my goodness! Like, I've got to see Jeff's castles forever, but his castle, again, today or in the show, every time I see it, I see more details. Like, I don't know if he keeps on adding to it, but I'm going every single time. The streams here and it is there. Like, it is inspirational, and he puts a lot of effort into the trees and greenery and paths and streams and all that stuff, and it shows because it looks picture perfect. One of my new friends named Etienne, he brought mosaics, and I didn't meet him until halfway through the show. But I remember walking down one of the aisles, and way down there, it looked like it was just a photograph, like a photocopy of a painting. And I don't know what it's from. It's some sort of anime. But I walked closer and I realized it is just a mosaic. Just a mosaic. It is a mosaic. But it was a beautifully rendered mosaic that when you take 15 steps back, it looks like it's a photograph with all the shading details that he put into it, which takes effort. It's not just throwing it into a computer that spews out what parts you need. Like, it was, and then I met him, and going, oh my goodness, dude, I saw this thing from across the floor, and I thought it was a photo. I thought it was a photocopy of something until I got close. And then he had Guy Lafleur, which I could see immediately. It was Guy Lafleur. And then we had a story about that. And again, so when you're at these shows and you start talking to the builders, and they start telling you the stories, why he has a mosaic of Guy Lafleur, and I'm not going to, he was shared it with me, but I love the stories that these people have for their mocks, for what they chose to bring. I was talking to the guy who made that space layout for a long time. I mean, the space layout, that's mine. The guy who brought the train layout, and and I didn't know, but Jeff told me afterwards that this guy is like, he runs like not symposiums, but he runs like clinics, how to build trees for Lego displays. I'm going, well, it shows because those trees are gorgeous. That's right. So, but I don't know that. I don't pay any attention to that kind of stuff. But so we had a nice chat for basically the weekend. And every time I walked by, I said, for me, it was my favorite mock of the show, the train layout. I understand why Floaty Mountain fantasy thing won best in show, because it was literally fantastic. But everything there was fantastic. The train layout was my personal favorite. Absolutely. But and again, that's saying something, because there was not a single thing I didn't like there. I loved everything that was on the floor, and I got to look at everything on the floor because I took the time. This time I walked away from mine and walked around, and even during lights out I walked around and I got to see everything and pay attention, because usually I don't have the time to do that, and I said this time I'm going to do that. But the train layout was my favorite. Absolutely. And it was a stiff competition. But it was my favorite in the end. But Jacob's little Star Wars, I mentioned that. It was just fantastic. Jacob's sister came over and we had a wonderful chat. I met her before a few times at previous shows, and I don't think she displayed anything at this show, but we had Natalia, beautiful name. She came right up to me. Jake was at the show because he had something to display, but Natalia came up to me. I think it was on Sunday. Maybe I forget. Everything's a blur. And then oh, hi Dave. I haven't seen you since the last show. Yeah. And then she started talking about my layout, and I'm going, this is great. But then she started talking about she's building something at home that's like a theater because she loves the theater. And I'm going, oh, this is going to be awesome when I get to see this thing. Now I'm looking forward to seeing Natalia's build, because I want to see it, because she's talking about the backdrop. She's talking about, like, because she's in the theater and she wants to be in the theater, and she's building a Lego mock of that stuff. I want to see this thing now, because I enjoyed her telling me the story about this stuff and her passion for it. And I'm going, I want to encourage people's passion for this stuff, because it doesn't matter what you want to do. I think Lego is one of those few hobbies, besides painting, that you can do whatever you want with it. You can display whatever your heart's desire and display it, and on various scales. Like there's that 13 by 13 Hogwarts castle that that person built, and it's absolutely spectacular. I've never seen it in person, but I've seen pictures. But there's a little tiny micro table. It was right on the table all by itself. And it's a little micro, and I'm looking at the deal. Oh, that's from this movie. They had the Dementors floating around the top. Fantastic. Literally fantastic. There was so many things. But I hope at a future show I get to see Natalia's theater production. I want to see that. I was thinking while she was talking to me that I did have that Duplo theater set with the backdrops and stuff, and but I gave it to a good friend of mine. But they might have liked that one. but it's still so now we're another 37 minutes into the show wrap ups. So I'm going to stop this one because I think I gushed enough about the mocks, although I could talk a lot longer about how wonderful they were. And I'm sure I left a lot out, which I feel bad about, but it was such a busy weekend, and I met such lovely people, and loved their displays. But these are the ones that are in my head right now. I'm gonna go to bed tonight and think, oh, I forgot to talk about this one and that one and the other one. There's gonna be a million of them that I forgot to talk about. There was one that had over the other wall had various robots and mechs and various scales that you just look at it and the clean lines and blah blah blah. There was a robot coming out of the ground that was a pretty big. I don't know, it could be from, I don't know all the different ones these days, but it was beautifully rendered in Lego, if it came from something. And I'm going, that's really inspirational. Just the arms and the head coming out of the ground. I'm going, nicely done. I don't know what it is. I don't have a clue what it is. But the mock itself was beautiful. That's all that mattered to me. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking about this, and I'm going to start part 3 right now.